Welcome back. You're watching ET Insights right here on ET Now. $16 billion is the kind of money that India loses to corruption every year. The big question is, why should it bother people like you and me? And the answer is very simple. The monster of corruption leads to poor growth, and hence it also leads to higher cost of doing business, which in turn results in higher inflation. But it's not as if India has suddenly woken up to this evil. There have been several laws to combat corruption, and now there is a Lokpal bill in the making too. But that may not be enough to tackle this monster. What kind of a framework does India really need, and why? Let's find out.
Anti-corruption is the want of the day.
Want to see a change in the country.
We all are against one thing, that is corruption.
Corruption is a very big issue in our country.
Not in support of corruption.
Anti-corruption.
Anti-corruption.
Stop this corruption. अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर करप्ट है उसको क्या करोगे?
भ्रष्टाचार खत्म करना है तो अभी आना ही होगा.
Corruption, which is like the worst thing in our country. I mean, that's the main drawback in our country.
Today India must wake up. Today India must think.
Don't only get associated with us emotionally, get associated with us intellectually as well.
We want corruption-free India. We want.
Public confidence in the government is touching new lows. It's not easy to choose the path that best serves a country of 1 billion people with myriad needs.
There are no simple solutions. To eradicate corruption demands a far deeper engagement and a sustained commitment from each one of us. Witnessing the events of the last few days, it would appear the enactment of a single bill will usher in a corruption-free society. I have serious doubts about this belief. An effective Lokpal law is only one element in the legal framework to combat corruption. The Lokpal institution alone cannot be a substitute for a comprehensive anti-corruption code.
To find a suitable solution, one must understand the root of the problem, which is a lack of transparency in electoral funding and political finance and a complex administrative structure. Take, for example, the case of the public distribution system in India. The intention of the system is a noble one, but the process to claim benefits is tedious. The result? A complex system that breeds black marketing and is rife with corruption, from officers that are lower in the pecking order to those that enjoy the highest ranks. In the upper deck, it's discretionary decision making that is the root cause of the problem.
We will put in place a mechanism to reduce the scope for misuse of discretionary power or to eliminate discretionary power wherever it can be done without detriment to public interest or achievement of public good.
Mind you, it's not like India does not have any mechanism at all to address corruption. There are laws like the Prevention of Corruption Act, the Prevention of Benami Transactions Act, and the Right to Information Act. Apart from that, there are institutions like the Central Vigilance Commission and the CBI, and then there are sector-specific regulators like the TRAI, IRDA, RBI and SEBI. But in the past, several officers belonging to many of these bodies have come under the scanner. And when the police need policing, it's time for a change. Enter the Lokpal bill, which has recently been tabled in Parliament. The bill talks of the setting up of an ombudsman-like body for filing complaints of corruption against those in power.
As far as government is concerned, we have introduced the bill in the Parliament. There is a different process going on. The standing committee can always invite suggestions from every group, everyone. They can go out also to find out solutions for that.
Under this bill, the Lokpal will be permitted to probe any union minister or officials of Group A and above rank without any sanction. According to the government's draft, the Lokpal will have a chairperson and 8 members, including 4 judicial members who will be former or sitting judges of the Supreme Court or Chief Justices of the High Court. But the Lokpal bill is the bone of contention between the government and social activists like Anna Hazare and Arvind Kejriwal, who have been campaigning for the Jan Lokpal bill or the Citizens Ombudsman bill, which seeks the setting up of an independent body to investigate corruption.
To have the lower bureaucracy into the Lokpal to have the Citizens Charter, which is covered in the UN Convention, which is ratified by India decades ago, and to have the grievance redressal mechanism, to have the state level Lokayukta, which is not there in Gujarat itself and in many other states, but that needs to be strengthened and made independent. What is irrational in all these demands? These are the minimum things. We of course want the MPs to be covered. We want the judiciary to be covered under judicial accountability. We want the Prime Minister to behave like one of the citizens of this country under Article 14 of the Constitution.
आप प्रधानमंत्री को रखना चाहते हैं, प्रधानमंत्री को रखिए. जुडिशरी को रखना चाहते हैं, जुडिशरी को रखिए. हमारे जैसे लोगों को कोई आपत्ति नहीं है. लीडर ऑफ द अपोजिशन ने कहा मीडिया से लेकर के जुडिशरी से लेकर के सबके ऊपर में उंगली उठा रही है, तो सबको डाल दीजिए, लोकपाल को डाल दीजिए. और ये लोकपाल क्या है? भगवान के यहां से आएंगे कोई क्या? ऊपर से आएगा कि इसी कर्मचारी में से लेगा, कर्मचारी को लेने का काम करेगा.
The Jan Lokpal bill seeks to cover the Prime Minister and all central government employees and set up Lokayuktas at state levels to cover state government employees. It proposes to merge agencies like the CBI with the Jan Lokpal, but like the government's draft, the Jan Lokpal 2 is not the most appropriate way to tackle corruption.
Much depends on who investigates, and the CBI's anti-corruption wing should be transferred to the Lokpal. I'm fully with Team Anna on that. On the other issue relating to Lokayuktas, I think you need to have a serious debate. And Prashant Bhushan told me that it is on the concurrent list, and most of the Lokayuktas are defunct and so on. So I think these issues have to be recognized as central, whether you fully accept it or not.
There must be a proper grievance redress mechanism that must be put in place, and there must be a strong and effective anti-corruption system that must be put in place. Except that we feel that it cannot and should not be done under one institution.
So what is the correct framework that India needs? Last year, the Central Vigilance Commission prepared a draft national anti-corruption strategy to provide a framework for preventing and combating corruption in what it likes to call a comprehensive, coordinated, inclusive and sustainable manner. It recommended attacking the problem at several levels, beginning with having a strong political will to confront corruption.
We have a job cut out, we have a lot to do, and there are people amongst every walk of life that have let us down. And I think it's time that we choose our leaders in every field with greater care.
The CVC recommended making anti-corruption policies mandatory clauses in the manifestos of all political parties, having an overall cap on all sources of electoral and political funds, having a system of daily disclosure of receipts and expenditures by political parties, making all political payments through plastic cards and bank accounts, including last-mile payments to volunteers and party workers, building ethical competence in public officials through competency-based training, and strengthening administrative reforms by using information technology.
Not even 10% of the money that goes into financing elections comes from tax-rebated open donations. The rest of it is raised in black and through kickbacks and commissions. Now, everyone is involved in this, bureaucrats as well as politicians.
The CVC stated ways to make the judiciary stronger. It recommended setting up a National Judicial Council tasked to investigate corrupt activities of the judiciary and having regular integrity checks and having special courts for corruption cases. It also spoke of empowering enforcement agencies like the CVC, the Comptroller and Auditor General (CAG), the National Crime Records Bureau and state anti-corruption agencies.
All these agencies inherently have the skill sets to investigate and tackle corruption issues. What they need is to be independent, clearly independent and of any bias or influence which can be exacted upon them.
I think if you give them the right to suo motu take action based on what they think is wrong and fix their reporting to an independent judiciary, I think they have the capability of doing good investigations as we've seen in the past. But somebody has to give them a free hand. And number two is, if you look at CVC, etc., I think if you look at it, most of the people who come in are about to retire or about to retire. Everybody in the staff is, from other departments. I think you need to get a CVC which is strong, which comes out with good policy.
Along with this, the CVC recommended introducing the Lokpal bill because the CBI jurisdiction is limited to investigating anti-corruption criminal cases against political executives and parliamentarians, and there is no body to inquire into misconduct other than criminal cases. Clearly, the role that the CBC had originally envisaged for the Lokpal was not that of a body with wide-ranging judicial and investigative powers. Instead, it recommended having a Lokpal to effectively do away with the loopholes in the existing system. Many experts agree because, as they say, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's not a great idea to replace one menace with another.
With that, it's a wrap here on this show of EC Insight. It's been a pleasure being with you this evening, and do keep sending us your feedback and suggestions as always.